It all started with what looked like an exciting Hollywood pairing, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni joining forces on a high-profile project that promised sparks on-screen and raved about box office results. Fans were eager to see these two charismatic figures share the spotlight. But behind the curtain, something was amiss. Before anyone realized it, a flood of damning evidence, legal accusations, and contradictory stories turned this collaboration into one of the most explosive showdowns Tinseltown has seen in years. Why would Blake, celebrated for her charm and poise, suddenly launch a series of serious allegations against a co-star she once praised? Why does Justin, known for championing uplifting narratives and co-writing a book about positive masculinity, have pages of text messages and even voice memos that disrupt her entire version of events? The confusion only gets deeper when you learn about the enormous lawsuit filed in response, one that's so massive it threatens to overshadow their entire combined net worth. Strap in, because this isn't a simple he said she said spat. It's a labyrinth of rumored behind-the-scenes power struggles, hush-hush PR strategies, and last-minute legal maneuvers that might set a jaw-dropping precedent in Hollywood. In just a few minutes, you'll hear why many are calling this the real-life drama of the decade, perhaps even bigger than some of the blockbusters these celebrities have headlined. Long before any legal documents were drafted, whispers of friction were already swirling around Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Insiders claim that when filming began, everyone on set believed they were witnessing a dream team in action. Blake's star power and fandom were at an all-time high, bolstered by her reputation for radiating warmth in interviews and public events. Meanwhile, Justin was riding the waves of success from his heartfelt projects and a memoir that championed the idea of redefining masculinity. On paper, this team-up should have been a slam dunk. Yet rumors of creative disagreements started creeping out. One source claimed that lines were being rewritten at the last minute, while another said entire scenes were scrapped or restructured on short notice. More than once, crew members reportedly heard raised voices behind closed doors, but it was never entirely clear who was at odds. Some believed it was an innocent clash of two passionate creative minds. Others suspected bigger egos were at play. But the true spark that set off the powder keg came when Blake started dropping hints, first in private messages, later in cryptic social media posts, that Justin was crossing her personal boundaries. She never gave details initially, only that she felt uncomfortable or disrespected. Online, speculation grew. Was this about controlling the creative vision for the film, or something far more serious? Despite the mounting tension, the public still saw them smiling in promotional teasers and interviews, albeit never side by side. Perhaps they were two talented professionals who had found a way to coexist without letting personal differences wreck the production. Or so people hoped. Beneath the glossy veneer, the seeds of an impending meltdown were already well planted. And soon, we'd all find out that the only thing more dramatic than a high-stakes Hollywood story is the behind-the-scenes chaos that rips through that perfectly curated image. When Blake Lively finally took the lid off her complaints, she did so with calculated precision. In interviews with respected publications, she depicted Justin Baldoni as someone who pushed the boundaries of on-set etiquette. She described a moment where, during what was supposed to be a silent montage, Justin allegedly leaned in and whispered something suggestive, then, according to her, got more handsy than was called for in the scene. This accusation made waves. Blake has a strong fan base that's quick to rally around her, and many were outraged at the possibility that she'd been subjected to unprofessional behavior. The controversy gained enough traction that mainstream media outlets picked it up and ran with it. Headlines spoke of shocking misconduct, and Blake Lively stands her ground. But as is often the case, reality turned murky. Justin's team responded by pointing to raw footage that showed a different story, painting the alleged silent montage as a playful, mutual exchange. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't so clear-cut. Online debates reached a fever pitch. Was Blake telling the whole truth? Or were her claims amplified by a swirl of emotional tension and behind-the-scenes conflict? The plot thickened further when talk show personality Megyn Kelly weighed in. With a dogged determination to uncover every twisted lie, She publicly questioned Blake's version of events and teased that she'd found receipts, text messages, audio logs, you name it, that contradicted the actor's story. Gossip columns and social media lit up, but the drama had only just begun. For Blake, though, these allegations weren't limited to just one questionable incident. She claimed that Justin's producing partner had shown her something S in nature. Justin's camp fired back that it was a simple photo of a newborn after a home birth, hardly the salacious pornography that Blake insinuated. The more details emerged, the more fans realized they were wading into a full-on he-said-she-said standoff, where each side insisted on telling the world, this is the real truth. The question that took center stage was this: if Blake's initial description of events didn't match the recordings or the photos in question, what else might be off about her story? And how far would each side go to tip the scales of public opinion? Enter Megyn Kelly, who seemed determined to peel back every layer of this scandal. Whether you love or loathe her approach, there's no denying her knack for spotlighting controversies. Fueled by interviews, leaked documents, and snippets of text messages, Megyn set out to build a case that would directly challenge Blake's narrative. One of the biggest bombshells came in the form of video footage that allegedly disproved Blake's account of an on-set boundary breach. In these clips, Blake and Justin can be seen flirting and giggling in a manner that looks thoroughly consensual, if not downright friendly. The footage doesn't reveal any forced or invasive moment. Instead, it appears the two were fully aware the cameras were rolling as they shared playful banter. Megyn Kelly called this the nothing burger phenomenon. Each time Blake would level a dramatic claim, the full context supposedly showed something mundane or consensual. Kelly went on to claim that Blake either exaggerated or reshaped these anecdotes to paint Justin in a damning light. In one instance, text messages showed Blake initiating contact, inviting Justin over while she was breastfeeding, and generally being friendly, hardly someone who seemed terrified or threatened by him. Naturally, the internet erupted in debate. Was Megyn Kelly to be trusted, or was she cherry-picking convenient evidence to prop up Justin's side? Some fans supported Blake, arguing that even friendly interactions could later turn sour, or that survivors often struggle to articulate events. Others felt the receipts spoke for themselves, branding Blake's allegations as a cunning campaign to salvage her image after some unflattering press. The more Kelly uncovered, the more complicated the story became. Where Blake saw harassment, others saw mutual banter. Where Blake saw intimidation, others pointed to her own texts that hinted she was the one steering the relationship's tone. What no one could ignore was how messy it all became once the press had their fill. And as the tension soared, Justin Baldoni's reaction became the next big headline. Justin Baldoni was never known for being a Hollywood troublemaker. Far from it. He'd cultivated an image of an introspective, empathetic man dedicated to championing both men's emotional well-being and women's empowerment. So, when he fired back against Blake Lively with a defamation and extortion lawsuit, the entertainment world did a collective double-take. His complaint was direct. He alleged that Blake had orchestrated a smear campaign, leveraging her star power and possibly that of her husband's influence, to wrest creative control away from him during production. He claimed her aim was to rewrite scenes, dominate the project's direction, and overshadow his role entirely. In Justin's view, the harassment allegations were nothing more than a retaliation tactic when he refused to cave to all her demands. The evidence he presented wasn't limited to secondhand accounts. Among his arsenal were text messages in which Blake appeared eager to meet, chat, and even share intimate details with him. The real showstopper, though, was a 7-minute late-night voice memo that Justin had saved. In it, he apologized profusely, sounding almost desperate to remain in Blake's good graces. Critics asked, would a man who truly HD'd someone go to such lengths to appease that same person? And why was Blake eager to keep these communications under wraps? But Justin didn't stop at revealing his side of the story. He also filed an array of claims that Blake was the real bully on set, that she used her PR connections to leak negative stories portraying him as some predatory figure. It was a harsh reversal that forced many fans to reconsider their initial stance. If the allegations had been fabricated or significantly embellished, as Justin's team suggested, then could it be that the victim was actually the aggressor behind closed doors? The lines were now drawn. On one side, we had Blake's supporters who believed she was victimized by a powerful male figure in Hollywood. On the other, Justin's camp insisted he was the one under attack, coerced into bending over backward to satisfy a relentless co-star. It was no longer just about the film they'd worked on or the media coverage surrounding it. The question was far more elemental: who was telling the truth, and who was building a house of cards that might topple under the weight of evidence. From the moment both sides filed their respective lawsuits, it was clear this wasn't going to be a short-lived spat. Lawyers racked up billable hours at a dizzying pace, drafting mountains of paperwork meant to sway public opinion as much as it was meant to convince a judge. Blake Lively's legal team, in a bold move, sought a gag order, effectively asking the courts to silence Justin's frequent document leaks and public statements. That request alone raised eyebrows. If Blake was confident in her claims, critics argued, why try to stop Justin from sharing more evidence? Her defenders countered that too many random receipts tossed out in the media could distort facts, influencing potential jurors. But the optics weren't in her favor. Megyn Kelly wasted no time pointing out the apparent irony. First, Blake leaked her side of the story to big outlets like the New York Times, and now she wanted to muzzle Justin's camp for doing the same. The PR warfare only intensified. Blake's team accused Justin of setting up websites that showcased selected excerpts from their private communications, painting her as manipulative and untruthful. Meanwhile, Justin's attorney hammered home that these snippets were crucial to revealing the context behind Blake's claims, context he insisted exonerated his client from wrongdoing. Behind the scenes, it looked like two unstoppable PR machines colliding at full force. Blake wanted to maintain a carefully curated persona, a beloved actress, a doting mother, someone who'd never stooped to spin a false story. Justin, for his part, wanted to shed the label of aggressor that threatened to tarnish everything he'd built around his champion of women image. Every time one side landed a blow in the press, the other retaliated in kind. As the flames of public scrutiny grew higher, you couldn't help but wonder if either party recognized how damaging this was to their mutual reputations. Even so, the biggest shocker was still to come, a lawsuit so huge it might have been plucked straight out of a Hollywood script. When word leaked that Justin Baldoni was seeking a staggering $400 million in damages, jaws dropped across Hollywood. Yes, you heard that right. $400 million. That number is so large it surpasses the combined net worth of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds several times over. Legal experts and gossip bloggers alike struggled to comprehend such an astronomical demand. Family law attorney Ward Dalton Palmer described the figure as plucked straight out of thin air, attributing it to a tactic often used in lawsuits to grab headlines. After all, why ask for $40 million when you can ask for 10 times that and send a bigger message? But while many called it a PR stunt, Justin's team insisted the motive went deeper. The claim was about clearing his name and showing the world that he'd lost significant career opportunities due to allegations that he viewed as entirely baseless. The ripple effect on Blake and Ryan's image was palpable. They've long been considered a powerhouse couple, each with successful careers and robust fan followings. If a fraction of that $400 million total actually became a reality, it could seriously dent their financial standing. Even if the lawsuit was intended primarily for shock value, the potential damage to Blake's credibility and their shared brand was undeniable. Still, there was a method to this madness. In the realm of legal warfare, demanding a colossal sum can sometimes be a negotiating ploy. Aim for the sky, and your adversary might be more willing to settle quickly rather than risk an uncertain trial. On top of that, the figure alone dominated news cycles, ensuring Justin's countersuit seized prime media coverage. Even those who doubted the validity of such a high-dollar amount couldn't resist discussing it, and that, in itself, magnified the conversation around Blake's alleged falsehoods. At this stage, the story had strayed far from a simple set conflict. It had grown into a cautionary tale about how fleeting Hollywood alliances can be, how quickly the public can turn on a star they once adored, and how precarious the line is between championing real victims and weaponizing victim narratives. For every comment supporting Blake, there was another from someone labeling her claims a hoax, demanding she face real consequences for her alleged smear campaign. As the drama escalated, a new term sprang into the headlines: DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Blake's statement labeled Justin's countersuit as a textbook example of DARVO, suggesting that he was flipping her allegations back at her in order to dodge accountability. Meanwhile, Justin's supporters accused Blake of the very same tactic, that she had twisted the narrative to paint herself as a victim when, in reality, she was the one calling the shots behind closed doors. Legal experts weighed in, warning that these competing claims were likely to stretch the case out for years in the judicial system. One judge in New York scheduled a trial date for 2026, hinting that the labyrinth of counteraccusations, PR campaigns, and potential settlement discussions might keep this storyline simmering for the foreseeable future. In the court of public opinion, you could almost hear the gears turning. Had Blake launched an exaggerated or entirely fabricated story to mask her own behind-the-scenes demands? Or was Justin indeed using selective leaks to discredit a genuine survivor of an industry where lines are too often blurred? Both sides had supporters, and as more evidence trickled out, new narratives emerged like clockwork. One day, a new text message might surface, showing Blake cheerfully joking with Justin about upcoming promotional spots. Another day, someone might release an email that suggests Justin's team was strategizing ways to spin negative press about Blake. The puzzle pieces rarely formed a clean picture. Instead, they created an ever-shifting mosaic that left casual observers dizzy. What no one could deny, though, was how this entire fiasco might alter the paths of those involved. For Justin, his brand as a forward-thinking male ally and advocate for compassionate masculinity was squarely on the line. For Blake, a single misstep could transform the public's perception of her from America's sweetheart to someone manipulating a crucial conversation about power dynamics for personal gain. Meanwhile, people couldn't help but notice Ryan Reynolds' conspicuous silence. Was he quietly supporting his wife, or did he have reservations about how far this had spiraled? The only certainty was that as each new day brought fresh revelations, the labyrinth grew darker, and the stakes only got higher. Looking back, it's astonishing how quickly a promising on-screen collaboration morphed into a full-scale Hollywood catastrophe. What started as rumors of creative clashes ballooned into a legal war, pitting two widely admired celebrities against each other in front of a worldwide audience. In the process, we've seen careers jeopardized, reputations rebranded, and private messages splayed out for public consumption. If there's one lesson from this saga, it's that perception can shift in the blink of an eye. One day, you're the unsuspecting fan cheering for your favorite A-lister. The next, you're knee-deep in contradictory evidence and leaked text messages, unsure whom to believe. As for Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, their fates rest not only in the hands of a judge and jury, but also in the court of public opinion, a battleground that can be merciless in an era of viral rumors and instant commentary. So, what happens next? Do these two Hollywood power players quietly settle behind closed doors, each licking their wounds as they move on to new projects? Or will the trial become the next media circus, revealing even more twisted details? In an industry where every storyline is carefully orchestrated to captivate audiences, this real-life drama has outstripped any fictional script they might have performed in. And that's the part that truly leaves everyone breathless. Because if you think we've seen it all, from the contradictory videos to the $400 million curveball, there could still be more revelations hiding in the shadows, ready to drag this conflict into even deeper waters. Whether you side with Blake or sympathize with Justin, one fact is undeniable. The stakes have never been higher, and neither of them can escape the fallout unscathed. The question is, how will you interpret the evidence when the next bombshell drops? Will you continue to champion your chosen side, or will the lines blur so thoroughly that the only truth we can rely on is that the brightest Hollywood spotlight can cast some of the darkest shadows? Sometimes, the real shock isn't a single piece of evidence. It's discovering just how fragile reputations become once the glamorous facade starts to crack. Either way, stay tuned, because in the twisted, ever-evolving saga of Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively, we might still be just scratching the surface.